Zoom conferences. So with that, we'll get started with Gary Barta. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And thanks everybody for giving me a few minutes. Before I get started, driving in this morning, I don't have any details other than to hear that 2 students at Iowa State passed over the weekend in a boating accident. Again, I don't know details, but I certainly know enough to know that tragedy is on the hearts of a lot of families in Iowa State. So our thoughts and prayers go out to all of them. It's hard to transition from that, but I am going to. Very excited about starting spring ball. I look at this as, sort of the first chapter of post-COVID pandemic sports, and I know it's still with us, don't get me wrong, but I really feel like we're having a chance to turn the page. Congratulations to Kirk and the student athletes for the amazing job that they did last year, finishing 15th in the country. Amazing circumstances, and just excited to go forward. We have received the path forward from the Big Ten and from the University of Iowa to have fans in Kinnick Stadium again. So I couldn't be more excited about that, and I know our fans are going to share that excitement. The infections are down, the hospitalizations are down, and vaccines are certainly becoming more readily available. Don't have any clarification on percentage this spring. We're having 50% at spring sports. I'm certainly pushing for, rooting for, praying for 100% in Kinnick Stadium, but fans nonetheless, so excited about that. I am just going to share a few moments, talk about an announcement we made earlier today. Before I do, I'd be remiss talking about football and their success, but talking about Lisa Bluter and her team, Fran and his team, the story of Luca Garza and Caitlin Clark. It's just amazing. And then Tom Brands wins a national championship. And just before we came out, I think all of you saw that Spencer Lee, the man who wrestles without knees or without ligaments anyway, amazing accomplishment, was just named the Hodge Award for the 2nd straight year, sharing that with the wrestler Gable Stevenson up in Minnesota. So just incredibly great things going on. Our field hockey team is ranked number 2 in the country right now. Track won a championship, Big Ten championship. Women's gymnastics won a Big Ten championship, and on and on and on. So great news occurring throughout the department. Excited and appreciative of our student athletes. So to the great news for today. Earlier today, we sent out a release announcing that Will and Renee Moon have made the decision and the contribution to endow the head football coaching position. And Will and Renee, and in addition to another endowment, a Football Excellence Fund, they've been great fans for a long time. Their passion is unbelievable. My wife and I became friends with them several years ago, and just love being around them. Every time we have a campaign or a need, they've stepped up. They go to away games, they come to home games, they buy tickets for themselves and lots of other people. And just recently, they were at both the NCAA and the Big Ten basketball tournament. So just so grateful for their ongoing passion and support. So going forward, Kirk Ferentz and every head football coach from now on will carry the title of the University of Iowa Moon Family head football coach. And this is just great and exciting news. We have had several of those announcements, or a few of those announcements over the previous few years. Just a few weeks ago, we announced that Sue Beckwith had endowed the women's basketball head coaching position. And a few years ago, Henry and Patricia Tippie endowed the athletic director position, something I'll be eternally grateful for. These announcements are so exciting. When I arrived, I knew what great support we received from Hawkeye fans. I've seen it in practice now for over 15 years. And especially in times of fiscal challenge that we're in right now, whether it's a $50 gift, a $500 gift, a $5 million gift, we're just so grateful for the incredible support. We put out a written release sharing a little bit more about Will and Renee, but now we also released a video. So I hope you'll get a chance to take a look at that. It celebrates this gift, but more importantly, it celebrates their passion, shows how passionate they are. So with that said, again, just thank you to Will and Renee. Thank you for making this decision. Appreciate your support, appreciate your passion, and appreciate your friendship. So with that, I'll step aside and I'll let Coach Ferentz kind of kick off the spring season. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Coach Ferentz, welcome. The floor is yours.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Gary, for that introduction. And also just want to say what a special moment this is for everybody involved with Iowa football. It's just absolutely fantastic. And I've had the pleasure of knowing both Will and Renee for many years now. They were recognized in our banquet, the 17 banquet, team banquet, with the Player Appreciation Award to individuals that really go above and beyond to support our program, our team, and this step is just absolutely phenomenal. So we're really, really happy about that. I have learned in the last few days that sounds like Will and Renee, their relationship kind of began over an Iowa football game with maybe a side trip to the airliner. So I didn't know that part of their history, but I have gotten to know them over the years, and it's just been a real pleasure to get to know them. Like so many people that do support our program, they're just humble, hardworking people. Both of them are extremely accomplished at what they do in their professions, and you know, their interest, their support of our program, the vision and the generosity they're putting forward is just it's so helpful to us. So again, very, very appreciative of that. As Gary alluded to, they've been involved in just about every project we've had. I think I first met Will probably 15 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark, over in the Jacobson facility. He was interested in helping out with our strength conditioning, enhancing that program. That was the first time I really recall getting to visit with them. And since that time, obviously, we've gotten to know each other, and their giving is, just as Gary alluded to, has been very, very consistent, whether it was the Hanson Performance Center, the Kinnick Edge Project, and a lot of other things on campus. They've just been, you know, great to us in each and every way. So again, very, very appreciative of that. And really the bottom line is this is a gift that really helps assist us in our mission. And our mission is to give our athletes, all of our players, a chance to have a top-rate academic experience and a top-rate competitive experience when they're playing football. And this will go a long, long way. So again, I can't say enough in terms of just how appreciative we are. And I will share this with you. 22 and a half years ago, when I went to actually meet with the search committee for this position, I was 6 years in the NFL, perfectly happy coaching in the NFL. Really haven't given much thought to going back to college, and then Coach Fry retired. And the one thought in the back of my mind, my biggest fear was dealing with maybe outside donors, supporters, et cetera. I heard some horror stories, mainly in other parts of the country, but you know, just some horror stories about what that could be like. And that was one of my fears. And ironically, it's turned out to be one of the biggest fortunes I think that's come to my life. And I would, you know, include Mary as well. Through our 22 years here, we have just met some absolutely phenomenal people like Will and Renee, and they're right at the top of the list. They're just delightful to be with in any environment. And, you know, their support has really helped us sustain and build on a real strong tradition here. So again, I can't say thanks enough, and just very, very appreciative. A big day for all of us. That being said, I do want to move over to spring practice and transition that way a little bit. And this is, you know, certainly an important phase each and every year. It's, I think, maybe more significant, more important this year, just in light of what the past 13 months have been like for all of us. So before I get into details, I too would like to echo Gary's comments and compliments. You think about the success our teams have had this winter. What a great time to be a Hawkeye fan, and you know what Tom and the wrestling team accomplished. The 24th national championship, phenomenal. Both Lisa and Fran, you know, have had great teams that have played very, very well in the Big Ten, and then obviously on the national stage as well. And then you think about the individual accomplishments that Gary alluded to, just absolutely fantastic. And it's really evidence, I think, that, you know, individuals can shine, and really, you know, you don't have to go to quote unquote schools. It can happen anywhere, and it just really gets down to the individual's determination and their willingness to work towards goals. And certainly we've seen that with our athletes this winter, seen that with our athletes on a year-round basis, and just a lot of team success on top of that. And I'm just really pleased for all those teams. Gymnastics, same thing. So a lot of teams are right in the thick of their seasons right now. I want to wish them the best. But so again, been a great time for being a Hawkeye fan. And as Gary also alluded to, we're hoping to see Hawkeye fans and Kinnick a couple times this spring. That would be just absolutely fantastic. It's a lot of strange things about last season on all levels. One of the strangest was not having fans, especially during our home games in Kinnick. And I warned our team about that. I said, going on the road, that's not going to be that big a deal. But we're so accustomed to having great support at home, great energy in that stadium, and boy, we all miss that. So we look forward to, even if it's a smaller crowd this spring, having live fans in the stadium. It'll be a great step, and then hopefully it's a indication that we're moving as a country in the right direction, and hopefully getting ready to go. So that's all very, very positive, certainly. So going back to spring practice, again, this is just a really, really important phase for our football team. As we move on, we started back in January, the end of January, the guys got back on campus, had an opportunity to have an 8-week winter program. Ray Braithwaite, his staff did a great job. I think with the players, the training staff did a great job. And I'm really pleased with the accomplishments the guys made during the course of the winter. And that was our first step to this year, to this season. And I think the guys really accepted the challenge and did a great job taking advantage of that. And now we met this morning. Tomorrow we'll be on the field for the first time. And this is really the second step in trying to build our football team. And one thing we try to emphasize to our team back in January, the calendar flips over every year when the guys get back from their semester break. It's a whole new year, new calendar year, and a whole new football team. And the bottom line is we haven't accomplished anything yet. We haven't made a first down, stopped a first down, executed a field goal, you name it. We haven't done it. And I think the other thing that's really important for our players to understand, any past success that we've had as a program or individuals have had, and we've got plenty of guys that are accomplished college football players right now, it really doesn't matter. What matters is what we do moving forward this year and moving forward. So that's really where our focus has been. And right along with that, I think it's important for everybody to understand it's a fresh opportunity. No matter who you are on our depth chart right now, or where you are, or who you are, what position you play, what your experience level is, it's a fresh opportunity, a new start tomorrow. And a lot of things I'm sure have changed since the last time we were on the field. And I got to tell you, it feels like a couple of years ago. So, it'll be good to get on the field and get started with everybody, but it's kind of exciting, certainly. So we'll, during the spring, our routine is pretty consistent. We'll practice Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. It's a 5-week calendar block. On the off days, the guys come in and lift, and they'll meet in conjunction with that. So we get a chance to go from the film. There's nothing in the afternoon for our guys other than Friday afternoon, do a quick team meeting. But basically, that's the routine. No bowl gifts. There's no trumpets or any of that stuff. It's just a matter of trying to work and take advantage of an opportunity to improve. And that's really what it gets down to. And as a coach, I've always enjoyed this time of year because it is pure teaching. It's about development. It's about teaching. There's no game planning, no pressure to get ready for Saturday's kickoff, any of that stuff. And one time I talked to Dan McCarney yesterday just about something else. And, we started talking about spring ball, and he said the same thing. He said as a coach, he always really looked forward to it and enjoyed that time as much as any. And a big part of that is just seeing what stories are going to emerge, who's going to slide up the depth chart and show some improvement maybe we didn't anticipate. So that's part of the fun of it all as we go. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Obviously we're very pleased with last year. It was a great team to coach. A lot of really outstanding performances. Yeah, and with that, a lot of great leadership as well. And so that's good news. It's also bad news because in college football, a lot of those guys graduate. And we were reminded of that last week with the NFL day on campus, a bunch of guys going out and doing their best to put a good foot forward. But it's also a stark reminder for me every year that, boy, we're losing some really good players and some really good leaders. And, so that's kind of where it's at. But that's the exciting part about spring. That's the exciting part about a new year is just seeing who develops, who emerges. Thus far, very pleased with what the guys did in the strength conditioning program. Really encouraged about the way the team has pulled together, the leadership that we are seeing so far. And now we want to see what happens over the next 5 weeks. And the other thing we were talking about last week, just kind of talking in one of the conference rooms back there was, how typically it always looks pretty, it's almost hard to watch in the spring sometimes. It's not real cohesive, not real pretty to watch. And I think, visitors come in sometimes and look at us, they visit us in the spring and probably wonder if we're going to win 3 games. And that seems to be the nature of things because it's just all more about individual growth and improvement. we'll try to pull things together and we get going in August. So that's really where we're at, and we're eager to start that. The last thing I'll just say in closing, just obviously very excited about the 2 staff members that we've had join. George Barnett was first on board. George has coached in the Midwest very successfully for quite a while, coached at the high school level, coached, different levels in college, and most recently was at Tulane. But prior to that was at Miami of Ohio for 7 years, and they really took that program 7+ years ago from the basement to the championship level in the MAC, and just a great effort there. George is a tremendous football coach, tremendous individual. Glad to have him join us. And then obviously Liddell Betts, to another name that's probably a lot more familiar to a lot of you folks and of our fans. Liddell was an outstanding player, just a tremendous football player, one of the best I've ever been around. Back my first couple of years back when I got back in '99, and then went on and just had a very distinguished pro career, a long career. That's hard to do for any player. It's really hard for running backs. I think that speaks to the way Liddell operates, his attitude. He's very serious about what he does, very focused. And then since then, I've been more impressed maybe with what he's done over the last 8-10 years, just coaching in high school football. He kind of got into it unintentionally, if you will. Another coach or another former NFL player invited him to join the staff as an assistant. That coach ended up leaving Florida. His wife got a job in North Carolina. Liddell took over and just never looked back. And when he came and interviewed with us, just really impressed us in every regard. So just really thrilled to have him back with us right now. I think he's going to be a great fit, and really happy the way the staff is pulled together here. So all that being said, we're eager to hit the field tomorrow, and I'll try to answer any questions anybody may have.
Thank you, Coach. If you have a question for Coach Ferentz, please raise your hand in the queue, and we will get started with the first question from Darren Miller. Darren, can you hear us? Well, we'll circle back to Darren and get started with a question from Tom Kakert.
Hey, Kirk. Noticed you said something about maybe having a couple opportunities this spring to have fans. And are you looking at more than one? I would assume May 1st. Are you looking at something maybe the midpoint of spring?
I think if we're able to, that's our plan right now. We've talked about that as a staff. I do want to make one distinction, Tom. That's fans and media. You guys are welcome too. You're always welcome. You know that. But
thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we're hoping to have 2 opportunities, and hopefully the weather will cooperate.
The next question, Coach, from Scott Docterman.
Yeah, Kirk, good to talk to you. Wanted to know a little bit about your defensive line that you're bringing in now. I mean, we saw Zach Van Valkenburg play at a high level last year, but other than watching what Logan Jones did in the weight room, and Y.A. Black and his just immense physical gifts, and John Wagner being on the field at times and not on the field, what do you know about the other guys? Where do they kind of fit in the puzzle right now?
Yeah, I alluded to last Monday, and that really hit me on Monday. You're out there on the field, and there's Chauncey, right? Davion, okay? Those guys are working, and Jack Heflin, those 3 guys, and it dawned on me, okay, it's 3. You can only start 4. So obviously, it was another year where we're graduating 3 guys, and we've done that in the past too. So, but what you're hoping to see is a story like Zach's. The improvement he made last year as opposed to the year before, it's just night and day. And I think that's a good illustration of the way college football kind of works. And, for us to be successful, typically, the positions change year to year, but this year it is a defensive line. We got a lot of new guys, new faces, and quite frankly, a lot of guys we don't know about. And I think, again, kind of alluding to that theme I touched on earlier, I think this year is as important as any and interesting as any because, we didn't have spring practice last year, as you know. We didn't have a traditional camp. We really didn't have a consistent summer program. We had a handful of players that were quarantined for over 28 days that never got the virus, never came in contact with it other than their roommates. So my point there is it was really disruptive. Everything was disruptive about last year. And then when we got to the bowl time, our last game was, I can't remember the date of it. It was a cancellation, but, we played on Thanksgiving or Thanksgiving weekend. We still had a couple games left. So we never really had a bowl period where we got to learn more about our younger guys. So really everything got pushed to this point, and we're really anxious to get on the field and see what a guy like John Wagner could do. And based on what I've seen him do in the weight room and the out-of-season program, I think he's really ready to go. But we need him to do that on the field, or a guy like Logan you alluded to, or Deontay Craig, go right down the list. Some guys that we're really excited about, but we haven't seen them play enough football. And really, we have some experience in our ones, but a lot of our ones haven't played much. And then a lot of our twos are just, this is all going to be new for them. So it's really important that we get good quality work. And I can stand here right now. I submitted a depth chart last week just because Steve requested it. But, right now it really doesn't mean much. We'll know a lot more here 2 weeks down the road, 3 weeks down the road, more importantly, 5 weeks. And I'm emphasized to our team, it's going to look different in August too. So we're going to be a team that's constantly trying to move forward and improve. And I'm confident we'll have good players. I just don't know who they're going to be right now and how they're going to come about.
Coach, the next question from Rick Brown.
Hey, Coach, good to see you.
Rick.
You have an interesting mix of experience and potential in linebackers, Benson, Campbell, and Belton at the cash. What jumps out to you about those guys? And also, could you touch on your depth, Jacobson, Higgins particularly?
Yeah, it's kind of the same discussion. It's interesting, both Jack and Campbell, Jack and Campbell and Benson were both out for the first game last year. They didn't play against Purdue. And then, we're able to come back. Jack Campbell was dealing with some mono. But, both those guys played really well for us, and they're both outstanding guys. They're doing a great job in a leadership capacity. You can tell they've been on the field, they've been in the program, and they're fairly young players, yet they're really confident, and that's a great starting point. I would say the same thing about Dane. Dane's really done a great job outside backer / that cash position. So we've got good experience and good quality there. And then, you look at a guy like Justin Jacobs, who's missed some time with injuries. We think has a chance to be a really good football player. So to get him involved this spring at a couple different positions, probably in the linebacker spot. And then also with special teams, it's going to be really important for him. Same thing with Higgins and, Mike Tim. So, just really eager to see how all these guys do. But we do have a couple guys that have played successfully that, we count on them to improve as well.
Coach, the next question from Mike Halas.
Kirk, I think you said in February the intentions to make Ray Braithwaite give him that strength and conditioning coach job. He's still listed as interim director on the prospectus. I was just curious why that's taken so long, or if it's been changed.
That must be my area, but no, Ray and Cody. Cody moves in the number 2 spot, Cody Marr. They've done a great job going back to June. So my intentions fully back then were to turn it over to Ray and give him the reins. And my encouragement to him was to take it and run with it. And he's done that. Cody's been a great help and support. They have a great working relationship, as do the other guys in the room. So I can't say enough about the job they've done. And again, I said this before, but nobody had a more challenging job, in my opinion, last summer than our medical staff, whether it's Dr. Peterson, Cammie Paul, and all of the people that work with Cammie, and then the strength staff, just because of the people in, people out. It was just, it was crazy like that. It was crazy in everybody's lives. But as far as our program, they were the ones working directly with our athletes at that point. So I think everybody that I just mentioned has done a great job, and I've got total confidence in all of them. And that's something that's our area. So we'll get that straightened out. But now it's full speed ahead, and really pleased with the way the winter program went.
The next question, Coach, from Chad Leistico.
Hey, Kirk, good to see you. Obviously, given what happened last June, you're making 2 new hires, bringing them into this fold, trying to, work your way forward in diversity and inclusion and that kind of thing. I guess what assurances and how high of a priority was that when you went to add two members of your staff?
Yeah, I think we had a great pool. We interviewed 6 people, 5 live and 1 by Zoom. And that individual was in California, so it would have cost him about a 14-day quarantine had he come to campus. And, really impressive. I can tell you this, the 6 people interviewed, I think all of us were very comfortable. And it was a matter of, all 6 of them we felt would have been great fits on the staff. So, we went through, used the same criteria that we used last time we hired. And I think we've really done a good job maybe of addressing, the way we interview and try to hire people. So, it just, these were the 2 candidates that came to the top. And I think it's a good match on both parties. And certainly the DEI initiatives are part of our thinking. But, we wanted to bring in the guys that we felt would work the best with our football players on the team and feel really good about both guys. And George, as I mentioned, has a good Midwestern background. Not that that was a necessary criteria, but it helped, I think, and very impressed with his teaching. When he interviewed, it was just it was really first class. And then Liddell, same thing. Liddell, bringing back a former player is a positive. I think we have 4 on our staff now. It probably means I'm getting old, right? But we have 4 guys on our staff that played here. But that wasn't a requisite. It was just a bonus. And the thing that really impressed us about Liddell was the same thing as George. When he got on campus, I haven't seen Liddell in 20 years. I'll preface it by saying that. I talked to him coincidentally on a separate subject about 4 weeks before the job opened up. And, everything about him was just really impressive to each and every one of us. And, you just never know how it's going to go. So they felt great about both those guys. Again, felt really good about the entire group, but those 2 guys are the ones that really rose. And I think it was a consensus on our staff that they were the best fits for our program.
Coach, next question from Tom Kakert.
Kirk, I have kind of a twofold recruiting question. One, you guys are starting to schedule some officials. Are you feeling confident that you're going to start getting kids back on campus in June for camps or anything? And 2, have you divided up where Liddell and George are going to recruit?
Yeah, I'll answer the first part first. So I'm not confident of anything right now moving forward. I'm very hopeful and optimistic. I'm hopeful, first of all, that we have a good 5 weeks without an interruption. Certainly feel, better than probably any time in the last 13 months about the chances for that. But we're, it's like all of us, right? We're just all taking it day by day and just appreciative of any opportunity we get. And I think that's one thing that we all have learned over this past 13 months. One thing I caught myself this morning talking to our players about the fact that, we only have 12 games that are guaranteed. And we learned last year that's not the case either. So, everything you have in front of you, you got to really appreciate that opportunity. But I do feel good about that. And then, just based on my exposure to the world, which is our Big Ten calls. And then I've been on a couple calls, more national with Todd Berry, and then Todd also, who's involved with the AFCA, sits in on our Big Ten calls too. It just sounds like, we're moving in the right direction. Got to keep our fingers crossed there. So I don't even want to think about what it's going to look like if June doesn't open up. But yeah, so we're tentatively planning that just to make sure we are prepared in case we get that opportunity, and feel good about that. And then the other part, and we're very, very anxious to get people on campus too. I mean, that's been the hardest thing. And then as far as, Liddell and George's areas, still kind of sketching those out, but I think we've got an idea. Liddell obviously has been down in South Florida for quite a while. That's not a primary area for us, but certainly he's got some good connections there. We'll utilize those a little bit, although Kelton has done a nice job over on that side as well. And George has recruited the Midwest primarily, and he's got some areas that maybe we're not covering that might be helpful too. So we'll just kind of piece that together here in the next couple of weeks.
The next question, Coach, from Rob Howe.
Kirk, last month, the program was back in the news for the racial bias situation when Chris was hired by Jacksonville. I was wondering, did you have any communication with Jacksonville about that hire?
Yeah, I received a phone call from them. Yep.
What was that like? What did they ask you, and what did you tell them about Chris?
Yeah, that's a personal conversation, but I spoke to Chris's the job that he had done here, and pretty much answered questions. So that's it.
What was your reaction to what happened there? The blowback, and obviously your program was back in the news again in relation to that, to that news.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I feel more impact to the individuals involved, and it's obviously unfortunate. I don't know what else I can say at this point on a couple of different levels. And it's like a lot of things. I hope everybody's going to move on at some point, but I totally understand. I'm not passing judgment on anybody or anything. It's unfortunate.
Coach, the next question.
Pertaining to our program, I feel like we're in a really healthy spot right now. I think we demonstrated that, since last June. And, but our work's not done. We know that, and we're going to stay vigilant. We've been doing that, and we continue to do that. I doubt we'll be perfect, but we're working to be.
Thank you.
Coach, we'll circle back to Scott Docterman.
Yeah, Kirk, kind of along those lines, I know you said that that's kind of the hard part is moving forward after a lot of those changes were made. Has everybody gone through some sort of training, whether it's a DEI training or meetings since then? Because I know that was a focus. And how is the conversation continuing with you and everybody on your staff and the players to make it a more inclusive environment?
Yeah, I mean, there's been department-wide DEI initiatives. There have been more staff-bound or oriented, if you will, as well as players. So I think everybody's worked at it. It's not taking 100% of our time, but we've, I think, given the attention to it. And I'll go back to June. I think our responses, for the most part, were good. I'm not suggesting they're perfect, but it really gets down to listening. And Jim Caldwell said that in one of our advisory committee meetings. He mentioned the fact that your team will tell you what it needs, and it really got down to listening. And then us talking back and forth, players and coaches and players, and jointly trying to come up with ideas that we thought were better. I think anybody that followed our team last year closely would say it looked like a pretty healthy operation. I think if you talk to our players, more importantly, you'd get that feedback. And, when we started this semester, I interviewed all of our first year guys. Didn't get a chance to last fall. Interviewed all of them. They really aren't too worldly. But right now I'm in the process of interviewing our seniors, and the feedback's been really good. And then I've got a couple player groups that I visit with also on a regular basis, and they provide opportunity for feedback also. And I think what it gets down to is one of the points I made back, and I'm kind of tired of looking back, quite frankly, and we'll try to look forward. But one of the points that was made was that, we made some changes. The important thing moving forward, we said this last summer, was going to be, continually talking about the things that we did say we were going to do, and then letting our players grade us on that, and making sure that we're actually doing the things we all agreed on. And that's everybody involved, players and coaches. So far, so good, but it's like our football team, right? We're just in the beginning phases of this year. That work will never end, just like our work in football is never going to end either.
The next question, Coach, from Darren Miller.
Yeah, Coach, I hope I'm getting through this time.
There you go. I got you.
Rick asked earlier about the linebacker core in general. Last year, the season ends, Jack Campbell has that big interception in the end zone against Wisconsin. Can you maybe talk a little specifically about him, on how maybe that momentum, the way he finished the season, has springboarded to the off season and now into spring?
Yeah, we were really excited about Jack going back to high school. And I remember seeing him earlier in his career when he was an underclassman, and on the basketball court, and it was not pretty. He used his fouls really quickly, but it was kind of interesting. A year later, he turned into a pretty good basketball player. So, he's always had a great attitude. He's got great tools and really cares. He's just a tremendous attitude. And we've seen that here too. And so the comparison I'd give you, kind of seen the same evolution as a football player. He made a lot of really good football plays for us last year. He's got a great attitude, great instincts out there. But I hate to use that word instincts, because it kind of suggests, guys are lucking into things. A lot of study goes into that, but he's just got a good feel for playing football. And that interception you referred to is really probably a signature play in my mind, because I've seen that play not get made by a lot of good players. It's just that's not an easy play to make, especially down in that situation. So it really speaks to his football aptitude, if you will. And, we're really excited. He's got more time on his clock here. That's a great thing.
The next question from Chad Leistico.
Hey, Kirk. Now, did you tell Liddell that you've only got like 4 running backs on the roster? And I think one of them's out for the spring, right? And Ivory. So I guess
Ivory will not work. Yeah.
I guess do you have any creative plans to get more bodies back there, or I guess what are your thoughts on that position? Because you don't want to kill those guys.
We have plan A, plan B, and then Liddell would be plan C. So if we get there, we're in trouble. With all due respect, I think Liddell's best football is probably behind him. And you know, the way we blocked in '99, I think he probably lost about 6 years of his career right there. So I've teased him about maybe being the toughest player ever to play here, because we did not block real well in '99 or 2000.
Is that, I mean, just depth wise, do you feel like you've got enough, you know, for the fall, or do you need to look some other areas? Is what I'm asking.
Well, we do have A and B. We have plan A, plan B, and I joke about Liddell being plan C. We'll come up with a different plan than that one, but yeah, if it becomes an issue, we'll figure something out. But we have a couple other players we could probably move there rather than not right now.
Coach, the next question from Grant Becker.
Kirk, when you talked about Spencer last fall a lot, you kept mentioning, you know, not having that spring and maybe not even having some of those non-conference games early in the year. So for Spencer and all your quarterbacks, is there, I mean, I know you guys are always working hard and it's always a lot of stress on spring, but is there an extra weight to this spring because those guys didn't get it last year and how much information they have to take in?
Yeah, I'd say it's an opportunity. And, you know, it's really important for the guys in the trenches, because you can't practice blocking. You can't practice taking on blocks without being on a football field. So it's really important for them. But to your point, which is a really good point, especially given our quarterbacks last year, those guys missed some really critical time. I made that comment when this whole thing got going. You know, it was a good year to be endowed genetically, and it's a good year to have a veteran quarterback back. And we didn't have either of those going for us. So, you know, it was a matter of him going out there and playing. And, you know, I'll go back through the whole film, you know, the whole season again. But to me, one of his highlights might have been Illinois, because, you know, we as a team played poorly. He played poorly, and it wasn't looking too good there that first half. But for him to come back and play like he did and make some of the throws he made, that really, to me, that gives me encouragement that there's a pretty good quarterback here. And the other part about it, you know, we get to watch him with his teammates. We get to watch him. There's questions that he asks, you know, one-on-one meetings with Ken, with Brian. You know, just the way he operates, the leadership, the ownership that he's taken. So, you know, this guy just operates like you want a quarterback to. And I feel really good about the room overall. You know, but those guys don't have quite the experience that he does, but we're going to let them all compete this spring. And I think he's got a wonderful opportunity to really take a good step. And to me, it's a two-pronged thing here, because what he does this spring will really enable him this summer, assuming we have a normal summer, you know, to be a better quarterback during the summer. And that's important too. You read about the pro guys, you know, getting together in various towns with their guys. Our guys do the same thing. They work during the summertime.
Hi, can I call you back?
They couldn't do that last year either.
Thank you.
So, you know, it just, there were a lot of things that were missing last year. And I think he really played admirably considering those things. I know the average fans don't take that in consideration. Why would they? But those are things we're really in tune to. And yeah, I'm really excited about Spencer and watching his growth. And I'm excited to see the other guys too, Alex and Deuce. You know, those guys, they've got good potential. Connor's done a good job. So, you know, everybody's going to get a chance to compete a little bit this spring. It'll be fun to see where they're at.
Coach, we'll take 3 more questions. The next one from Mike Halas.
Hi, sorry, I just got a phone call, and if that was an intrusion, I apologize.
No problem. You're like one of our players, Mike.
Yeah. Speaking of your players, this may be covering old ground for you. I'm sorry if it is, but it's very relevant right now, I think. Where do you stand on the name, image, likeness issue? And if changes are made, how do you think they'll work?
You know, full disclosure, I've really not invested a lot of time on it. I know it's coming. I do know that. I don't think anybody's sure of what it's going to look like, how it's going to impact us. And I think that's probably a national thing. I think everybody's a little bit confused about it. This might be one where they say drinking through a fire hose. It might be that kind of situation. I know we've on campus been meeting about it and trying to get briefed on it. And I know the ABCs of it and all that, but I think really once we find out what it looks like and once it goes into effect, it's going to be a little bit like last year. Just try to make smart decisions as we move forward. But yeah, we're going to see a lot of changes between that, the transfer, the freedom of transfers. You know, college sports are really going to continue to change a lot in the next couple of years. There's no question about that. Just not sure what it's going to look like.
2 more questions, Coach. The next one from Scott Docterman.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about your tackles because you do have to replace a couple of good ones there. Jack Plum came in, looked like a center for the basketball team, and now he seems to be looking more like a tackle. How does he fit in at left tackle? What does he do well? And then likewise, Cody Ince moving from inside to outside. Is that need based, or is that where his skills kind of lie?
No, it's next man in. Cody's kind of an unusual guy. He's probably one of the few guys we've had 20 plus years that I think could probably play all 5 positions and play them pretty well. It's an unusual skill set that way. Excuse me. But he's, I describe him as a young player. He still doesn't know his own strength in some ways, and that's just a phrase. But I mean, he just does a lot of things really well. But I think it's just, it's all in front of him right now. I will mention he's not going to be out there this spring. We have a handful of guys that aren't going to be able to play due to injury. So that blows that equation up too. But I'll go back to Jack. I think Jack, his first start was against Nebraska. And I got to tell you, I was very curious and very anxious and eager to see what he's going to look like out there on the game field. He practices well. He's got a great attitude. He's really conscientious, extremely coachable. But you never know until a guy gets on the field and has to compete against live competition. I thought he did a really nice job. He had a couple opportunities, and I think it's all in front of him right now. So I'm not ready to ordain him, but I feel pretty good about his future here. And he's worked extremely hard. And I just talked about Spencer, a lot of the same traits, a lot of pride in what he does. And that's really pretty much every guy I've mentioned here so far. And then we'll see what happens at the other position. It might be Mason Richmond. It might be one of the younger guys. I don't know. Nick DeYoung is another guy that's really caught our eye over the last 2 years. Had some injury issues, but last year I thought made some ground. So it's kind of represented the spring. We really don't know standing here today on March 29th. Know a lot more here, hopefully in a month, and then even more so in a couple months.
Final question this afternoon, Coach, is from Tom Kakert.
Kirk, you got a handful of guys who came in, freshmen who came in at break. How have they done? And is Arlen maybe one of those guys that you could throw back there at running back this spring to kind of give him a look there?
Yeah, you've done your homework, and I'll give you a little trivia. So Arlen and Liddell both are Simone award winners down in Kansas City, correct? And I think, I'll verify this. I think Liddell said he was a runner-up his junior year, and then, he won it his senior year. Arlen's the first junior, I think, in the tradition of the trophy to win that. So he was a running quarterback, to your point. You've done your homework, certainly, and I think he's got both those, skill set both ways. Our preference right now is to see what he can do at receiver. That's our plan going into the spring. But, yeah, he would be a guy that potentially could move. But we'd like to see him playing receiver and, see how that goes, see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. I'd rather not move a younger player around a heck of a lot. And then the other guys are all in their, they're here. I'm always kind of amazed that they're here because they want to be here. And I think they've done a good job in the winter program. They're working a little bit different level than the older guys for obvious reasons. But it's good for them to be here, get started, kind of get initiated a little bit, being in class and just getting used to college life. And, we don't want to put too much pressure on them this spring, but we want to also see where they're at and what they can do. And, maybe somebody in that group or maybe somebody in our entire freshman group can help us. We'll know more about that next, as we get in closer to the game time. But, we got an open mind on everything right now. We're just looking for anybody who can help.
All right, Coach. Thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Okay, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Sounds good. For everyone out there, I believe Steve sent out an updated spring media schedule this morning. It looks like we will be back a week from tomorrow, April 6th, with some select player interviews. So reminder, no transcript. And we thank you for joining us. See you next week.